Captain Jake Morrison stood at the viewing window of the New Horizons and watched the massive Zalarian space station grow larger as they approached. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing fast. This was it, the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first received the alien message 3 years ago. First contact with an advanced alien civilization that actually wanted to talk instead of fight. Katie Brooks walked up beside him, carrying a small metal case. She was his diplomatic aide, and probably the smartest person on the ship when it came to alien cultures. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and she wore the formal blue uniform that Earth Command had designed specifically for this meeting. "The translation device is working perfectly, Captain," she said, while checking the small device in her hand. "The Zalarians have been very helpful in making sure we can understand each other." Jake nodded and touched the silver ring in his jacket pocket. Earth Command had given him specific instructions about the gift ceremony. The ring was made from metal found on Earth and was supposed to represent the bond of friendship between the two species. It seemed simple enough. "Are you nervous, Katie? Terrified?" she admitted with a small smile, but also excited. "We are about to make history." The docking process took another hour. Jake used the time to review his notes one more time. The Zalarians were an ancient race that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had crystalline features that changed color with their emotions, and they lived much longer than humans. Their leader was Emperor Zethkar, and he had a daughter named Princess Lyravel who would be at the ceremony. When the docking was complete, Jake led his small team through the airlock. The Zalarian station was beautiful in a way that took his breath away. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Strange music filled the air, and the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. A group of Zalarians waited for them in what was clearly a formal reception area. Jake had seen pictures, but meeting them in person was still amazing. They were tall and elegant, with skin that looked like it was made of precious stones. Their eyes were large and seemed to glow from within. The one in the center wore robes that sparkled like stars and had a crown of twisted crystal on her head. This had to be Princess Lyravel. She was younger than Jake had expected, and her crystalline features were shifting through different shades of blue and purple as she watched the humans approach. "Welcome, humans, to our station," she said in perfect English, though Jake could see the translation device on her wrist glowing. "I am Princess Lyravel, daughter of Emperor Zethkar. My father sends his greetings and his hopes for friendship between our peoples." Jake stepped forward and gave what he hoped was a respectful bow. He had practiced this moment many times, but his mouth still felt dry. "Thank you, Princess Lyravel. I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth and humanity. We are honored by your welcome and grateful for this opportunity to meet." The princess smiled, and her skin shifted to warmer golden tones. "Please follow me, Captain Morrison. The ceremony hall awaits." They walked through corridors lined with more Zalarians who had come to see the humans. Jake noticed that many of them were changing colors as they watched the group pass. Katie whispered that the color changes probably meant they were curious and excited. The ceremony hall was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. Hundreds of Zalarians filled the space, and their combined glow made the room bright as daylight. At the center was a raised platform where Princess Lyravel led them. "Captain Morrison," the princess said in a voice that carried to every corner of the hall, "please share with us the symbol of friendship that your people have brought." This was the moment Jake had practiced for. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the small silver ring. It caught the light from the crystal walls and seemed to shine with its own inner fire. The hall became completely quiet as every Zalarian watched Jake held up the ring so everyone could see it. "Princess Lyravel, on behalf of all humanity, I present this ring as a symbol of the eternal friendship between Our peoples. May it represent the bond that will connect Earth and the Zalarian Empire for all time. He stepped forward and placed the ring carefully in the princess's open palm. Her crystalline fingers closed around it gently, and she held it up to examine it closely. The hall remained silent as she studied the simple band of silver. Then something strange happened. Princess Lyravol's skin began shifting rapidly through different colors. Purples and golds and deep blues flowed across her features like waves. The other Zalarians in the hall began making soft musical sounds that might have been gasps or whispers. Looked at Katie, who was frantically checking her translation device. Her face had gone pale, and she was shaking her head in confusion. Something was wrong, but Jake had no idea what that Princess Lyraval looked up from the ring and met Jake's eyes. Her expression was unreadable, but there was definitely amusement in her glowing gaze. The colors on her skin settled into a warm golden shade that seemed to pulse with inner light. "Captain Morrison," she said slowly and clearly, so every word carried through the hall. Wait, was that a proposal? Jake felt his heart. Stop beating. I'm sorry, Princess, what do you mean? The princess tilted her head, and her smile grew wider. According to the customs of my people, when someone places a ring in the hands of royalty, while speaking of eternal bonds, they are making a marriage proposal. Are you proposing marriage to me, Captain Morrison? The hall erupted in excited musical sounds from hundreds of Zalarian voices. Jake felt the blood drain from his face as he realized what had just happened. He looked at Katie, who was now frantically working with her translation device, while her face showed pure panic. Princess I, he started to say, but she held up her hand to stop him. Please, Captain, there is no need to answer immediately. A marriage proposal to Zalarian royalty is a serious matter that requires careful consideration. We will discuss this. Properly, Jake's mind was racing. Marriage proposal. He had accidentally proposed marriage to an alien princess in front of hundreds of witnesses, using a gift that was supposed to represent friendship. This was definitely not in the briefing materials. Princess. Lyraval stepped closer to him and lowered her voice so only he could hear. Do not look so worried, Captain. I find your human directness quite refreshing. Perhaps we should talk privately about this situation. The ceremony was officially over, though Jake barely remembered the rest of it. The Zalarians were all talking excitedly among themselves, and many of them were looking at him with what seemed like approval. Katie managed to get him back to their assigned quarters on the station, without him saying anything else that might make the situation worse. Captain, what are we going to do? Katie asked as soon as the door closed behind them. You just proposed marriage to alien royalty. Earth Command is going to have a complete breakdown when they hear about this. Jake sat down heavily on one of the crystal chairs and put his head in his hands. I was just following the script. Katie, how was I supposed to know that giving someone a ring meant marriage in their culture? That's my job, Captain, and I failed completely. My research never mentioned anything about rings and marriage proposals. The translation device didn't warn us either. They sat in worried silence for several minutes before Katie spoke again. Captain, there's something else. I've been monitoring Zalarian communications since the ceremony ended. Refusing a marriage proposal to royalty is considered a grave insult in their culture. It could be seen as an act of war. Jake looked up at her with tired eyes. And accepting it would make you a prince of the Zalarian Empire, with all the responsibilities that come with that position. Captain, we might have just accidentally started either a war or a royal wedding before Jake could respond. There was a soft chime at their door. Katie checked the viewer and turned back to him with wide eyes. It's Princess Lyraval, Captain. She wants to talk to you. Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. Whatever happened next, he would face it as a representative of humanity. Even if he had just accidentally proposed marriage to an alien princess, he would handle this with dignity. Let her in, Katie. I think it's time we had that private conversation. Princess Lyravel entered their quarters with a grace that made the crystal furniture seem crude by comparison. Her skin had settled into soft silver tones that reminded Jake of moonlight on water. She was alone, which surprised him since he expected alien royalty to travel with guards. "Captain Morrison, may I sit?" she asked politely. "We have much to discuss about your proposal." Jake gestured to one of the chairs and tried to keep his voice steady. "Princess, with all respect, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding. I was not trying to propose marriage to you. On Earth, giving someone a ring as a diplomatic gift means friendship, not marriage." She settled into the chair with fluid movements and studied his face carefully. "I understand, Captain, but we are not on Earth. Here in Zellarian space, your actions have a different meaning. The question now is what we do about this situation." Katie remained standing near the door with her translation device ready. Jake could see she was still working frantically to understand the full implications of what had happened. "Princess, what exactly does it mean in your culture when someone proposes marriage to royalty?" Jake asked. "It creates a formal bond that cannot be easily broken," she replied. "If you withdraw the proposal, now it will be seen as an insult to my honor and to the Empire. If you proceed with it, you will become my husband and a prince of our people with all the duties that position requires." Jake felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. "And if I insult your honor, my father would be forced to respond. At minimum, it would end all diplomatic relations between our species. At worst," she paused, and her skin shifted to darker tones, "it could be seen as an act of aggression that requires a military response." Katie made a small noise of distress, and Jake saw her hands shaking as she worked with her device. The situation was even worse than they had thought. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization was about to turn into either a forced marriage or a potential war. "There must be some other option," Jake said desperately. "Some way to resolve this that doesn't involve marriage or war." Princess Lyravel tilted her head and considered his words. "Perhaps there is, Captain, but first I must ask you something. What do you think of me as a person?" The question caught Jake off guard. "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" "You have been focused on the political implications of this situation, but you have not asked anything about me. Do you find me completely objectionable as a potential partner?" Jake looked at her, really looked, and realized she was right. He had been so worried about the diplomatic crisis that he hadn't considered her as an individual. She was clearly intelligent, and from what he could see, she had a sense of humor about the whole situation. Her crystalline features were beautiful in an alien way, and her voice had a musical quality that was pleasant to listen to. "No, Princess, you seem like a remarkable person. Under different circumstances, I would be honored to know you better. But this isn't how I imagined getting married." She smiled, and her skin brightened slightly. "Nor I, Captain. In my culture, royal marriages are usually arranged for political reasons. The idea of someone proposing to me because they chose to is actually quite appealing, even if it was an accident." Katie stepped forward carefully. "Princess, if I may ask what would happen if Captain Morrison agreed to the engagement, but asked for time to prepare for marriage? Would that be acceptable in your culture?" Princess Lyravel considered this. "There are traditional courtship trials that a suitor must complete before marrying into the royal family. If Captain Morrison agreed to attempt these trials, it would give us time to work out the political details while maintaining honor on both sides." "What kind of trials?" Jake asked suspiciously. "Tests of character, courage, and compatibility. They are designed to ensure that a potential spouse is worthy of joining the royal family. If you fail the trials, the engagement ends with no dishonor to either party." Jake looked at Katie, who was nodding encouragingly. It seemed like their best option for avoiding immediate disaster while buying time to find a better solution. "How long do these trials usually take?" "Several months. During that time, you would live here on the station and learn our customs while I learn about yours. It would also give our governments time to negotiate the implications of a marriage alliance between our species. Before Jake could respond, Katie's communication device started beeping urgently. She answered it, and her face went pale as she listened. Captain, that was the New Horizons. Earth Command wants to speak with you immediately. Admiral Collins is on an emergency call. Jake's heart sank. Earth Command had probably heard about this proposal through their monitoring equipment and was likely in complete panic. He looked at Princess Liravel, who was watching him with curious eyes. Princess, I need to speak with my superiors about this situation. Would it be possible to continue this conversation later? Of course, Captain. But please remember that time is a factor. The longer we delay making a decision, the more difficult it becomes to maintain the fiction that this was an intentional proposal. After she left, Jake and Katie returned to the New Horizons, where Admiral Collins was waiting on the main screen, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His gray hair was disheveled, and his usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be seen. Morrison, what in the hell happened over there? He demanded. We received reports that you proposed marriage to alien royalty during what was supposed to be a simple diplomatic ceremony. Sir, it was an accident. The ring we brought as a friendship gift was interpreted as a marriage proposal according to their customs. I had no idea. An accident, the Admiral repeated slowly. Morrison, do you have any idea what kind of chaos this has caused here on Earth? Half the government thinks we should recall you immediately, and the other half thinks we should court-martial you for unauthorized diplomatic actions. Katie stepped into view of the camera. Admiral, if I may explain the situation. According to Zellarian culture, withdrawing the proposal now would be considered an act of war. Captain Morrison may have accidentally committed us to either a royal wedding or military conflict. Admiral Collins rubbed his temples and closed his eyes. This just keeps getting better. What options do we have? Jake explained the courtship trials that Princess Liravel had suggested. The Admiral listened without interrupting, then was quiet for a long time. Morrison, I need you to understand something. Earth Command cannot officially authorize you to marry an alien princess. But we also cannot afford to start a war with an advanced alien civilization because of a cultural misunderstanding. What are you saying, sir? I'm saying that if you choose to proceed with these trials, you will be acting on your own authority. As a representative of humanity, Earth will support you, but we cannot make this decision for you. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The future of human-alien relations might depend on whether he was willing to risk marriage to someone he had just met. Sir, there's something else, Katie said. I've been analyzing Zellarian culture, and I think Princess Liravel is genuinely interested in this arrangement. She mentioned that royal marriages in her culture are usually political, and that she finds the idea of choosing her own partner appealing. Are you suggesting that this accident might actually work out? Admiral Collins asked. I'm suggesting that Princess Liravel is an intelligent individual who sees an opportunity in this situation. If Captain Morrison can pass their trials, it might create exactly the kind of alliance both species would benefit from. Jake thought about his conversation with the princess. She had seemed genuinely curious about him as a person, rather than just focused on the political implications. Maybe this crazy situation could actually lead to something positive. Admiral, I would like to attempt the trials. If I fail, we avoid war, and if I succeed, we might gain a powerful ally. And if you fall in love with an alien princess, Jake was quiet for a moment. And I guess I'll be the luckiest accidental diplomat in human history. Admiral Collins actually smiled at that. Morrison, you always were too optimistic for your own good. All right, you have Earth's unofficial blessing to proceed. But keep us informed of everything that happens. After the call ended, Jake and Katie sat in the quiet of the New Horizons bridge. The weight of what he had agreed to do was starting to sink in. "Captain, are you sure about this?" Katie asked. "These trials could be dangerous, and we don't really know what we're getting into." "Katie, 6 hours ago, I was a simple starship captain. Now I'm potentially the future prince of an alien empire. I figure at this point I might as well see where this crazy journey leads." And Princess Laravel. Jake thought about her intelligent eyes and the way she had handled the whole situation with grace and humor. "I think she might surprise us all, Katie. I think she might surprise me most of all." The first trial began 3 days later in a chamber deep within the Zalarian station. Jake had spent those days learning basic Zalarian customs from Princess Laravel and trying not to think too hard about what he had gotten himself into. Was proving to be excellent company with a quick wit and genuine curiosity about human culture. "The trial of inner truth will test your emotional honesty," she explained as they stood before a massive crystalline maze that filled the entire chamber. "The crystal responds to your feelings and thoughts. You must reach the center while remaining true to yourself." Jake stared at the glowing walls that seemed to pulse with their own life. "What happens if I lie to myself? The maze will trap you in corridors that lead nowhere." Many suitors have spent days wandering in circles because they could not face their own hearts. Tony Garcia, his chief engineer, had come to watch along with Dr. Amy Rodriguez, who was taking detailed notes about everything. She observed. The trials were not just about Jake's future, but about understanding Zalarian culture better. "Remember, Captain," Tony called out. "These crystals seem to work on some kind of bioelectric field. Stay calm and focused." Jake nodded and stepped into the maze. The walls immediately began changing color around him, shifting from blue to green as he walked deeper into the structure. The path seemed simple at first, but he quickly discovered that thinking about where he wanted to go caused the walls to shift and block his way. Instead, he tried to focus on why he was here. Not just the political reasons or the fear of war, but his genuine feelings about the situation. The walls responded by opening a new path that led deeper into the maze dot as he walked. Jake found himself thinking about Princess Laravel. She was nothing like what he had expected from an alien princess. She was curious about everything, asked thoughtful questions, and had a sense of humor that reminded him of his sister back on Earth. When she laughed, her skin would shimmer with warm golden tones that made him want to see her happy. The maze seemed to approve of these thoughts, and the path ahead became clearer. But then Jake started worrying about what would happen if he actually married her. Would he have to stay in Zalarian space forever? Would he ever see Earth again? Would their children be human or Zalarian, or some combination of both? Immediately began closing in around him, and the path ahead disappeared. Jake realized that his fears were causing the maze to trap him, just as Princess Laravel had warned. He took a deep breath and tried to focus on the present moment, rather than worrying about an uncertain future. The truth was that he was starting to care about Princess Laravel as a person. Not because he had to for political reasons, but because she was intelligent and kind and genuinely interested in him. If their relationship developed into something real, he would be happy regardless of the complications. The maze opened up again, and Jake found himself in the center chamber where Princess Laravel was waiting with a smile that made her crystalline features glow with inner light. "Well done, Captain. You completed the trial faster than most Zalarian suitors manage. It helped that you warned me about being honest with myself. The second trial will test your courage and problem-solving abilities," she said as they moved to another chamber. "You must defend a Zalarian colony from space pirates, using only the resources available to you." Jake found himself in what appeared to be a sophisticated simulation chamber. The walls showed him a view of space where a small Zalarian colony was under attack by 3 pirate ships. He had access to a single Zalarian defense craft and a limited weapon supply. Tony Garcia had taught him some basics about Zalarian technology. But Jake quickly realized that trying to fight the pirates conventionally would be hopeless. Their ships were faster and better armed than his single craft dot. Instead, he studied the tactical situation and noticed that the pirates were positioned between the colony and an asteroid field. Jake remembered his military training about using environmental advantages and began formulating a plan. He flew his ship directly at the lead pirate vessel, then at the last moment veered into the asteroid field. The pirates followed him thinking they had him trapped, but Jake used his smaller ship's maneuverability to lead them deeper into the field. When the pirates realized they were in danger from the asteroids, they tried to retreat, but Jake had positioned himself to block their escape route. Using his ship's tractor beam, he began hurling asteroids at the pirate vessels with devastating effect. 2 of the ships were destroyed, and the third surrendered rather than face the same fate. The colony was saved, and Jake had proven that human tactical thinking could be effective even with unfamiliar technology. Princess Lyraval was waiting for him when he emerged from the simulation chamber. "That was impressive, Captain. Most candidates try to fight the pirates directly and fail. Your use of the environment as a weapon showed great intelligence. Human military doctrine emphasizes using every available advantage," Jake replied. "We learned long ago that the side with better tactics usually wins regardless of superior numbers or equipment." The third trial was different from the first 2. Instead of testing Jake alone, it required him to work with Princess Lyraval to solve a series of ancient riddles that revealed important aspects of Zellarian philosophy and values. They sat in a quiet chamber filled with crystalline tablets covered in flowing script that seemed to move and change as they watched. Princess Lyraval translated, while Jake offered human perspectives on the philosophical questions. "This riddle asks about the nature of leadership," she said, reading from one tablet. "A ruler who serves only themselves serves no one. A ruler who serves everyone serves themselves best." What does this mean? Jake considered the words carefully. It sounds like it's saying that good leadership requires putting the needs of your people before your own desires. But by serving your people, well, you also serve yourself because their success becomes your success. Princess Lyraval nodded, and her skin brightened with approval. That is the traditional interpretation. But what would a human leader add to this? Wisdom. Humans believe that good leaders also need to listen to different viewpoints and be willing to change their minds when presented with better ideas. A leader who cannot adapt will eventually fail, even if they have good intentions. As they worked through the riddles, Jake began to understand Zellarian culture better. They valued wisdom and service above personal glory. They believed in long-term thinking and careful consideration of consequences. But they also respected innovation and the ability to find new solutions to old problems. Princess Lyraval seemed equally interested in human perspectives. She asked thoughtful questions about human history and government and seemed particularly fascinated by the concept of democracy. On Earth, leaders are chosen by the people they will serve, Jake explained. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it means that leaders have to convince citizens that their ideas are worth supporting. In Zellarian culture, leadership is inherited, but rulers are expected to earn the loyalty of their subjects through wise decisions and just actions. Perhaps our peoples could learn from each other. The final trial was the most challenging. Jake had to demonstrate his understanding of Zellarian customs by participating in a formal court ceremony, where he would be judged by the nobles and officials who would be his peers if he married Princess Lyraval. The ceremony hall was filled with hundreds of Zellarians all watching as Jake attempted to navigate complex social protocols he had learned over the past week. He had to greet each noble in the proper order, speak the correct formal phrases, and demonstrate his knowledge of Zellarian history and culture. Lisa Park, his linguistics officer, had coached him on pronunciation, and Katie Brooks had drilled him on proper etiquette. but Jake still felt nervous as he made his way through the ceremony. One mistake could undo all his progress in the previous trials. The most challenging moment came when Duke Kethver, a prominent noble with dark purple crystalline features, stepped forward to test Jake's knowledge. "Human," the Duke said with obvious disdain. "Tell us why you believe your species deserves an alliance with the ancient and noble Zalarian Empire." Jake could sense that this was a trap. The Duke clearly opposed the marriage alliance and was looking for any excuse to declare him unworthy. The hall fell silent as everyone waited for his response. "Your Grace, I do not believe humans deserve anything from the Zalarian Empire," Jake replied carefully. "Alliances cannot be based on what one side deserves, but on what both sides can offer each other." The Duke's crystalline features darkened further. "And what can your primitive species possibly offer us? Humans bring fresh perspectives to old problems. We adapt quickly to new situations. We are loyal to our allies, and we never give up when facing challenges. Most importantly, we believe that diversity makes everyone stronger. Pretty words, human, but words are not deeds." Jake took a deep breath and decided to take a risk. "Your Grace, if you doubt human capabilities, I invite you to examine the results of my trials. I passed the trial of inner truth by being honest about my feelings. I won the trial of courage by using human tactical innovation. I completed the trial of wisdom by combining Zalarian philosophy with human insights. These are not just words but demonstrated abilities." The hall buzzed with quiet conversation as the nobles discussed Jake's 3 weeks after Jake completed the courtship trials. The first assassination attempt came while he was studying Zalarian history in the station's library. A maintenance drone that should have been cleaning the floors suddenly changed direction and launched itself at his head with deadly speed. Jake's military reflexes saved his life as he rolled sideways, and the drone crashed into the crystal wall behind where he had been sitting. Before he could react further, Princess Liravel burst into the library with several guards who quickly secured the damaged drone. "Are you hurt?" she asked while her skin shifted through worried shades of purple and blue. "Just startled," Jake replied. As he got back to his feet, "I take it that wasn't supposed to happen." Maintenance drones are programmed with multiple safety protocols to prevent exactly this kind of accident. Someone deliberately reprogrammed this unit to attack you, Commander. Rick Stone, Jake's second-in-command, arrived within minutes, along with Tony Garcia and Dr. Amy Rodriguez. They had been working with Zalarian security to investigate several suspicious incidents over the past week. "Captain, this makes the 4th attempt on your life," Rick said grimly. "Someone really doesn't want this marriage to happen." Princess Liravel led them to a secure briefing room where she could speak freely. Her skin had settled into determined silver tones that Jake was learning meant she was angry but focused. "I have been investigating these attacks with my own security people," she said. "We believe they are being coordinated by someone with access to high-level systems and detailed knowledge of your daily routine." "Any suspects?" Jake asked. "Duke Kethvar has been the most vocal opponent of our engagement, but we have no direct evidence of his involvement. He is too clever to leave obvious traces." Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been studying the damaged drone with her scanner. "Princess, the modifications to this unit required sophisticated knowledge of Zalarian technology. Whoever did this had engineering, training, and security clearance. That narrows the list considerably," Princess Liravel replied. "I will have my security chief investigate everyone with the necessary access and skills." Over the next few days, Jake found himself under constant guard while the investigation continued. He couldn't go anywhere on the station without at least 2 Zalarian security officers watching for threats. It was frustrating, but he understood the necessity. The situation became more complicated when Katie Brooks received an encrypted message. From Earth, Admiral Collins appeared on the secure communication screen looking even more tired than usual. Morrison, we have a problem. Opposition politicians here on Earth are using your situation to attack the entire space exploration program. They're claiming that your marriage alliance proves that humans can't handle contact with alien civilizations. What kind of opposition, sir? Jake asked. Senator Williams is leading a faction that wants to recall all human ships from alien space and end the diplomatic program. They're saying that you've been corrupted by alien influence and that the marriage is some kind of mind control. Katie stepped into view of the camera. Admiral, that's ridiculous. Captain Morrison is making his own choices based on the situation he found himself in. I know that Brooks, but the politicians don't care about facts. They care about votes in there. Our people on Earth who are terrified of alien contact. They see Morrison's engagement as proof that humans can't maintain their independence when dealing with advanced alien species. Jake felt anger building in his chest. Sir, are you saying that Earth Command wants me to break off the engagement? I'm saying that Earth Command is under enormous political pressure to order you home. If you refuse to return, you could be charged with desertion and treason. And if I do return, the Zellarians might consider it an insult that requires a military response. Admiral Collins rubbed his temples. Morrison, you've managed to put yourself in a situation where every choice leads to disaster. The only solution I can see is to prove that this marriage alliance benefits both species enough to justify the political risks. After the call ended, Jake sat in his quarters trying to figure out how to solve an impossible problem. He was trapped between Earth politicians who saw his engagement as a betrayal and Zellarian nobles who wanted to kill him to prevent the alliance. Princess Liravel found him there an hour later, looking frustrated and worried. She sat beside him on the crystal couch, and her skin shifted to comforting warm tones. You received bad news from Earth. Jake explained the political situation and watched her expression grow more serious as she understood the implications. So we face enemies on both sides, she said thoughtfully. Perhaps it is time to take more direct action. What do you mean? I mean that we stop reacting to attacks and start investigating who is behind them. If we can prove that Duke Kethver is trying to sabotage our engagement, we can discredit him and his supporters. How do we do that without evidence? Princess Liravel smiled, and her skin brightened with anticipation. We set a trap, Captain. We make the Duke think he has an opportunity to destroy our alliance, and then we catch him in the act. The plan they developed was risky, but clever. Jake would publicly announce that he had received new information about Zellarian technology that could revolutionize human space travel. He would claim that Princess Liravel had agreed to share advanced crystal power systems as part of their marriage alliance. The announcement would be made during a formal dinner, with all the major nobles in attendance. If Duke Kethver was behind the assassination attempts, he would likely try to steal or destroy the fake information to prevent humans from gaining advanced technology. Commander Rick Stone and Tony Garcia worked with Zellarian security to set up surveillance in Jake's quarters, where he would supposedly keep the fake technical data. Dr. Amy Rodriguez created convincing but harmless fake documents that would look like genuine Zellarian technology specifications. The dinner was held in the station's grand hall with hundreds of nobles and dignitaries in attendance. Jake wore formal Zellarian robes that Princess Liravel had given him and tried to look confident despite the danger he knew was coming. When he made the announcement about the technology sharing agreement, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. Several nobles began arguing loudly about whether such information should be shared with humans, while others demanded to know exactly what technology was involved. Duke Kethvar remained quiet during the discussion, but Jake noticed that his crystalline features had darkened to deep purple shades that indicated intense anger or frustration. The Duke left the dinner early, claiming he felt unwell. That night, Jake lay in his bed pretending to sleep while surveillance equipment monitored every corner of his quarters. At exactly 2 a.m, the door chimed softly, and someone entered. Using what appeared to be a master security code, Jake forced himself to remain still as footsteps moved quietly across the room toward the desk where the fake documents were hidden. Through barely opened eyes, he could see a figure in dark robes searching through the papers. The intruder found the fake technology specifications and began photographing them with a small device. Jake waited until the person had finished and was preparing to leave before he activated the room lights and security alarms. The combined human-Zelarian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kythera system, just as the local star was rising over the third planet where the main pirate base was located. Jake stood on the bridge of the New Horizons watching. The tactical display has 27 ships from 2 different civilizations prepared for their first joint military operation. Princess Lyraval was aboard the Zelarian flagship Crystal Dawn, coordinating with her military commanders while maintaining an open communication link to Jake's ship. Her image appeared on his main screen, wearing the silver and blue armor of a Zelarian war leader. "All ships report ready, Captain," she said with calm authority. "The pirates appear to have detected our arrival and are scrambling their defensive forces." "Confirmed, Princess," Jake replied as his sensors picked up enemy ships launching from the planet's surface. "I count 18 pirate vessels moving to intercept us. They're using a standard defensive formation that suggests they don't know about our combined tactics." Commander Rick Stone was coordinating the human ships from his position at the tactical station. "Captain, the pirates are deploying exactly as we predicted. They're trying to use the asteroid field to break up our attack formation." "Perfect," Jake said with a slight smile. "Let's show them why that's a mistake. All human ships execute plan. Alpha, Zelarian forces begin your approach when we engage." The human ships broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the asteroid field where the pirates were waiting. To the enemy, it looked like a reckless charge that would expose the human vessels to concentrated fire from protected positions. What the pirates didn't expect was the precision with which human pilots could navigate through the asteroids while maintaining formation. Jake's ships used the rocky debris as cover while they closed the distance to the pirate positions. "Zelarian fleet, begin your attack run," Jake ordered as his ships engaged the enemy. "We'll keep them distracted while you hit their flanks, Princess." Lyraval's voice came over the communication system, calm and confident. "Acknowledged, Captain. Crystal weapons charging now." The Zelarian ships approached from a different angle, using their advanced shielding to absorb the pirate weapons' fire, while their crystal cannons built up energy for devastating precision strikes. When they fired, the beams of focused energy punched through pirate shields like they were made of paper. The battle was intense, but brief. Caught between human maneuverability and Zelarian firepower, the pirate fleet was destroyed within 30 minutes. Only 3 enemy ships escaped, and they fled toward the outer system at maximum speed. "Excellent work, Princess," Jake said as the combined fleet regrouped. "Phase 1 complete with minimal casualties. Ready for planetary assault. Our intelligence indicates the main base is protected by surface-to-space missile batteries," Princess Lyraval replied. "We'll need to neutralize those before landing assault teams." Tony Garcia had been analyzing the enemy defenses from his engineering station. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of jamming field around the base. It's using modified Zelarian technology, just like we suspected. Can we break through it? Not easily, but I have an idea that might work. If we can get close enough, I can use our deflector array to disrupt their jamming signal." Jake considered the tactical situation. Getting close to the planetary defenses would be dangerous, but without communications, the assault teams would be fighting blind. "Do it, Tony, but take us in fast and stay low. Use the terrain to mask our approach." The New Horizons separated from the main fleet and descended toward the planet's surface while the other ships provided covering fire against the missile batteries. Jake's ship skimmed just above the rocky landscape, using valleys and mountain ranges to avoid enemy sensors. When they reached the optimal position, Tony activated the deflector array and sent a focused electromagnetic pulse toward the enemy base. The jamming field flickered and died, allowing the assault teams to coordinate their attack. "Nice work, Tony," Jake said as they pulled away from the planet. "Princess, your teams have clear communications now. Copy that, Captain." Landing parties away, the final phase of the operation went smoothly as combined human and Zellarian ground forces stormed the pirate stronghold. The criminals had expected to face either human or Zellarian tactics, but not both working together. They surrendered after only token resistance. Dr. Amy Rodriguez led the team that secured the base's computer systems, and what they found there exceeded everyone's expectations. The pirates had detailed records of their operations, including evidence of attacks on both human and Zellarian colonies. "Jake, you need to see this." Amy called over the communication system. "These pirates weren't just working with Duke Kethver. They've been planning coordinated attacks on both our species for months. If we hadn't stopped them here, they would have launched major assaults on our home systems." Jake felt a chill as he realized how close both civilizations had come to disaster. How many ships do they have in reserve? According to these records, at least 50 vessels hidden in bases throughout this sector. Without our combined intelligence, we never would have found them all. Princess Lyravel's image appeared on the screen, and Jake could see the satisfaction in her glowing features. "Captain, it appears our marriage alliance has already prevented a war that neither of our peoples saw coming. The success of the Kithra operation changed everything." When news of the joint victory reached Earth, the political opposition to Jake's engagement collapsed almost overnight. Senator Williams found himself defending his criticism of an alliance that had just saved human colonies from pirate attacks. Admiral Collins appeared on the communication screen the next day, looking relieved and proud. "Morrison, the president, wants to personally thank you for preventing what could have been a disaster for human space exploration. The alliance you've created through this engagement has proven its value beyond any doubt. Thank you, sir, but I can't take all the credit. Princess Lyravel and her people did most of the heavy lifting, which brings me to my next point. The President has asked me to officially authorize your marriage to Princess Lyravel as a formal treaty alliance between Earth and the Zellarian Empire. You'll retain your rank and position while also serving as humanity's permanent ambassador to Zellarian space." Jake looked at Princess Lyravel, who was listening to the conversation with obvious pleasure. Her skin had shifted to warm golden tones that he had learned meant she was happy and excited. "Sir, I accept the position, but I need to know that this marriage is based on more than just political convenience." Admiral Collins smiled. "Morrison, from what I've observed, you and the princess have developed genuine feelings for each other. The political benefits are just a bonus." After the call ended, Jake and Princess Lyravel found themselves alone on the observation deck of her ship watching. The star's wheel slowly passed the transparent crystal walls. "Jake, I need to ask you something important," she said quietly. "When you first placed that ring in my hands, it was an accident. But if you had known what it meant, would you have done it anyway?" Jake considered the question carefully. Over the past months, he had gotten to know Lyravel as more than just an alien princess. She was intelligent, funny, and genuinely caring about the welfare of both their peoples. She had risked her own safety to help him investigate the conspiracy and had stood by him even when it would have been easier to end their engagement. "Yes," he said simply. "I would have proposed to you on purpose, Lyravel, because I've fallen in love with who you are, not what you represent." Her crystalline features brightened with inner light, and she moved closer to him. "I was hoping you would say that, Jake, because I have fallen in love with you as well." Not because you're human, or because our marriage serves political purposes, but because you are brave and kind and everything I want in a partner. They were married 3 weeks later in a ceremony that blended human and Zalarian traditions. The wedding was held aboard a specially constructed ship that orbited between Earth and the Zalarian homeworld, symbolizing the union of two civilizations. Jake wore formal Earth dress uniform, while Princess Liravel wore traditional Zalarian robes that seemed to be made of living starlight. When they exchanged vows in both languages, their words were broadcast to billions of people across 2 star systems. The reception featured food from both worlds' music that combined human and Zalarian styles and dancing that required Jake to learn complex Zalarian steps while Liravel mastered human ballroom techniques. It was chaotic and wonderful, and everything a wedding should be. 6 months later, Jake and Liravel stood on the bridge of their new ship, Unity, watching as a mixed crew of humans and Zalarians prepared for their first joint exploration mission. The vessel itself was a marvel of combined technology with human engineering integrated seamlessly with Zalarian crystal systems. Commander Rick Stone served as Jake's first officer, while a Zalarian named Kylewin served as Liravel's cultural liaison. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been promoted to Chief Science Officer, and Tony Garcia ran an engineering department that included specialists from both species. Captain, we're receiving a signal from an unknown alien ship, Katie Brooks reported, from her position at communications. They're requesting permission to approach, and they claim to represent a species called the Andromedans.